When the caravan left, they left this boy behind to die. When he found this out, they got to the village of Cebu, he found this out, and he said, where was the boy? And they said, oh, he was left. And he said, why? And he said, because he was too sick to travel with us. And George English was so distressed by this. He said, no, you have to go back and get this boy. And they said, there's no point, there's no hope for him. He said, if this was a Christian, we would have 40 men go back and get this boy. And then he convinced the sheikh of the village, and he spoke Arabic. He convinced the sheikh to send somebody. He traveled on to Aswan. When he got to Aswan, he writes, and this is how he ends his narrative, and you can read this online. He ends his narrative, and this was a bestseller in the United States of America. He ends his narrative by saying, 3 days after I arrived in Aswan, I met a Nubian traveler who had found the boy. He told me he found him, he had fallen into a ravine and he was nearly dead. And he helped him, he gave him food, he took him on his camel, he brought him to the village, and the boy died and he buried him. And I said to this man, I promised a reward for anyone who would help that boy, and I want to give you that reward. And he said, quote, to my astonishment, he said, I don't want your reward because I didn't do it for you. I did it for one who can give me a much greater reward than you could ever give me. I did it for my God. And this George English ends his narrative by saying, I said to this man, I am so pleased to meet a true Muslim who is following the precepts of the Quran that demands people act charitably and with benevolence to people in distress. This is how he ends his book, that I am happy to meet a true Muslim who acts according to the precepts of the Quran. This is the Ulu Baqiyya, the people of constancy, who have become too far between and too few in the Muslim Ummah today. And this is what we as Muslims in the United States of America have to become. The people of Ulu Baqiyya, the people that are constant in the virtues and the uprightness of our tradition, as well as the best of America, because that's what George English represents. He represents the best of this country. And that Nubian man that he met, who we don't know his name, he said to that man, in ending his narrative, he said, I am assured that this deed of yours will fill a great space on the blank page of our good deeds on the day of judgment. And that's how he ends his book. Our page is too blank, and it's time to fill that page up with great deeds. Great deeds. Wallahi, thumma wallahi, I swear to God, and God is my witness, the power in our community for regeneration in this country is awesome. It's immense. There's so much power in this room. There's so much power in our young people. Look at these young people. I was just in a room filled with these young people, beautiful, innocent, bright faces. And we have to help them to make this place a better place, because we are demanding of this country to call itself to a higher standard. To a higher standard. This country has fallen by the wayside. This country has gone far too off course. And because the ship of this country is so important to the rest of the world, if we go off course, we take far too many people with us. It's time for the Muslims in America to live the truth of their religion and to call people in this country to the highest ideals, the ideals of George English and that Nubian man, of acting with charity and benevolence to those in stress. We're on a planet that is in distress. We've got over 3 billion people living in subhuman conditions on this planet. More than half of this planet is living in subhuman conditions. Those of us who are enjoying the fruits of life on earth have to begin to share those fruits. When Aisha radiallahu anhu had a grape and a beggar came and asked for something, she split the grape and she gave half the grape to that man. And one of the Sahaba that were with her said, "Is there any benefit in half a grape?" And she said, "How many atoms is in that grape? How many atoms is in that grape?" وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ مِنْ خَيْرٍ يَرَى. If you do an atom's weight of good, you will see that on the day of judgment. We have a world that is so dysfunctional, that is so distraught, that is so troubled, that even the smallest acts of charity fill up big pages on the blank page of our good deeds on the day of judgment. Go out. I'm overjoyed. This year when I came, I felt a cloud was lifted from the Muslim community. Or you could also say, I feel like we got out from under a thorny bush that we were just burdened with. All of us were wondering if we'd end up in orange suits with earmuffs on our things and things on our eyes somewhere, wondering where we were, what planet we were on, like Mr. K in the castle, who's never told the crime that he committed. But some barakah came down. Really. Some barakah came down. Some hasana. You know, some hasana. Obama, he's made some mistakes already. That's okay. Obama, I'll finish this. Obama, two things. Obama is in the Arabic dictionary. It's in Taj al-Arus, Imam Zabidi's extension of the Qamus. It's under the Medda Alif Ba Mim. He says, and I'm quoting, Obama ala wazni Usama. Obama on the paradigm of Usama, because Usama is a common name, so the Arabs put something where so you know how it's pronounced. Obama, which is pronounced like Usama, is Obama ibn Ghatafan. He's Obama, the son of Ghatafan, one of the great tribal chieftains of Arabia. And then he says, وَكَانَ لَقَبُهُ هَذَا الْأَسْوَدِ. And his nickname was this black guy. You know, God has, there's humor in the world. I'm telling you, there's more connections than people are aware of. But Obama gave a speech in Cairo where he unclenched the fist of America and extended a hand of friendship. But, and buts are important little prepositions there. But, as long as this country is dropping bombs on civilians in Afghanistan, it's going to be hard for Muslims to open up their hands. As long as this country is causing havoc in Iraq, it's going to be hard for Muslims to feel comfortable about opening the hand. When there was an incident in one of the Gulf states of torture recently, and we had our Secretary of State decry the outrageous practice of torture, that sounded very hollow to many people around the world, coming from the United States of America after Abu Ghraib and Guantanamo, after waterboarding. This country needs to be called to a higher standard. We're the community that can do it with other communities, but we have to be living at the highest standard of moral observance. Because if we don't live that moral truth, we can't